The Floating World and the Legend of the 5 Bamboo Fly Rods by Gabe Batson. Chapter 4, SEMPRE AMORE. Transforming itself every single day, my love is a blooming rose. New York paints summer in colors so thick the pigments threaten to fall from the canvas. Dani rushed through each maddening day to get home to her sewing machine. Though beyond the sanctuary of her small bedroom, things at home weren't so hot either. There was more to life for Dani, things she hadn't yet dared to dream. She sewed, stitch by stitch, but grew not weary, though some mornings she woke to find she had once again fallen asleep at the wheel. Beauty is a dangerous game to play. Through the open windows came the song of birds from the rooftops and voices of men on the street below. Sunrise drifted over the sea of buildings like a golden veil floating in from the Atlantic Ocean. She wondered if today she'd see Mazzy. She loved her dorky boyfriend, even if he was such a big nerd.
All he thinks about is cars. That's what I get for dating a greaser.
Massimo was a particular kind of nuts. In the mornings he stood in the bathroom mirror and sang along with the arias that blared from his record player. It drove everybody in the house crazy.
"Hey, what do you want from me?"
he would yell back.
"I like to look sharp, okay?"
But he wasn't a fool-around guy. He didn't go down to Washington Square Park and smoke pot with the hippies, and he didn't hang out with the Goombas on the corner either. He kept his mouth shut and his nose clean. He hid an automobile between floors in a freight elevator. It was a 1941 Willys coupe with a 427, solid lifters, and 11-to-1 compression. It had a quick-change rear end, running numerically high gears, and a box frame to keep all those ponies on the ground. But the magic wasn't in the parts list. It was in the fact that with the help of his friends, he created from an old car something that could stomp anything coming out of Detroit. He turned the key, slid into the elevator's control panel, and hit the button. He listened to the hum of the motor until it clicked to a stop. He drove the car out onto the empty lot. He'd go hunting outside the city tonight. At Dani's place, he looked into the rearview mirror and combed his hair. Murmurs in different languages drifted through the window. He walked across the street to her building and called up to the balcony.
"Hey, Dani! Dani!
A voice yelled back.
"Hey, lady, I'm not asking for you. I'm looking for Dani Beretta." "Dani!"
What?
Dani leaned over the railing.
"I was wondering if you can come down for a second. Wouldn't that be nice? You come down, we do something nice together."
Hold on. I'll be down in a minute.
She went inside and got ready. When she opened the door to the living room, it was dark. The drawn Venetian blinds were banging the sills in the breeze. Sourness oozed from the pores of her mother, still passed out on the couch. Dani walked across the room to raise the blinds. The rustling of the tulle under her skirt rose up with the scent of melon from the cologne she just applied.
"Where do you think you're going?"
said her mother's dry, husky voice.
"I'm going out."
Dani said.
"With Mazzy." "You're not going anywhere."
Her mother mumbled as she fell back asleep. Mazzy had his eyes closed as he listened to Smokey Robinson on the radio. Dani came out in her pink top and red skirt. She descended the staircase like a radiant rose blooming in a scarred world of cracked concrete and sooty brick.
And I know now without you, joy couldn't be found without you.
As she approached the car, a woman from the building called to Mazzy.
"Hey, Stunad, you gonna open the door for her or what?"
"Yeah, what's the matter with
Somebody else yelled. He jumped out of the car and jogged around to open the passenger's door. She sat in the car with her skirt flowing over the seat. He closed the door with both hands, not taking his eyes off of her. They squirted from stoplight to stoplight up the old post road to Playland. It was real fun at the amusement park, eating cotton candy, seeing the lights of the spinning rides, watching kids run around playing. They walked over to the boardwalk. People were swimming and sunbathing on the small beach. Dani jumped up and sat on the railing. She balanced, swinging her feet back and forth. Mazzy looked up at her. She had a smile that filled her face with a joy that could never be extinguished, no matter how much pain or heartbreak. She plucked bits of cotton candy with her fingers, feeding Mazzy.
There's something about you,
Mazzy said.
You've always been like this, even as a kid.
She smiled and bent down to meet his face with her widening eyes. She yelled, "Sugars!" and jumped down and ran across the wooden walkway. Mazzy caught her and held her tight.
Oh, Mazzy,
She said.
let's fall in love like this forever.
On the way back, they went by Cavaletto's, the deli owned by Mazzy's family. It smelled of herbs, aging meat, and Italian cooking. Salamis, cheeses, and garlic hung from the ceiling. Customers walked around racks of canned goods, cookies, and pasta. Cases filled with hot, cold food lined one side, behind which Mazzy's brother, Anthony, was dressed in all white. He was unpacking some boxes.
Hey, Andy,
Dani shouted.
where'd you get the black eye?
Anthony peered around the case. He had a large shiner around his left eye. Mazzy laughed.
Hey, next time, Duck.
Mazzy's mother was leaning on the low front counter. She shook her head.
I warned him.
She turned to Anthony and yelled.
Those guys are not your friends.
Mazzy and Dani gave her a kiss.
Hey, Miss Simo, where you been?
Ma asked.
I've been worried sick about you. What's the matter? You want something to eat?
No, we're all right,
You're
Ma.
wasting away, both of you. Eat something.
How's things? Mazzy asked.
Go talk to your father. He's upset.
Mazzy walked through the kitchen doors where his father was cooking a pot of sauce, pans of meatballs, and stuffed cabbage.
Hey, Pop, what's the matter?
He asked. Hey, Mazzy, his dad said with his back turned. He stirred the sauce and lowered the flame, and then he wiped his hands on his apron and sat on a stool. Mazzy asked, What's going on? You upset? I'm fine. Your mother. She worries about everything. I swear. I'm getting agita around these crazy people.
What people?
Come with me. I gotta do something. Mazzy followed his dad out the back door. Pop started the delivery truck as Mazzy jumped in. Pop put the long stick into gear and drove out the alleyway and stopped in front of a champagne Nissan four-door. Its windows were cracked open, so rain had been getting in. Mildew was growing on the velvet upholstery. He bumped the car with the truck and revved the diesel as he slipped the clutch.
Pop, what are you doing?
They complain about the shop, but nobody does nothing about this piece of crap car sitting here months on end. The tires of the Nissan skidded along the pavement as it was pushed down Finley Avenue. Pop pushed it up to a house behind the shop. The Nissan swerved left and violently right and slipped sideways. Pop put the truck in reverse and then in granny gear and pushed the car from the B-pillar. It bucked and squealed as it went sideways up, blocking the driveway.
What's this about, Pop?
Asked Mazzy.
This guy.
Said Pop. He's been complaining to the city again.
What guy?
Joe Votolo. I swear, I've had enough. Maron, you gotta be kidding me.
Joe Votolo lives on College Avenue.
He lives behind the store.
Yes, but on College Avenue.
What do you want from me? I'm losing my mind.
Don't worry about it. I'll figure something out.
They drove back down the alley and parked the delivery truck behind the shop. Mazzy walked back to the floor. Dani looked over at him as he checked the thermometers in the coolers. His shoulders were slumped. He threw up one hand as if arguing with himself, and he shook his head. Dani put her arm around him and held his shoulders. I can't live like this. His brother piped up.
Hey, Dani!
Anthony spread his arms.
When you gonna ditch this guy and get with the real man, huh?
Kayate, Annie.
She said, and turned to Mazzy.
As if. The balls of this kid.
Ma was still leaning over the front counter. A large paper bag was near her elbow. Dani and Mazzy kissed her goodbye. She pointed to the bag.
Dani, Mazzy, take this. You two must be starving.
She said.
Ma, please, he said as he weighed the bag by lifting one end. Come on, you can feed an army with this. Here are the contents of the bag. 1 pound sliced mortadelle, no olives. 1 pound sliced gabagol. 1 pound sliced provolone, lightly smoked with the butter inside. 1 loaf Italian bread with sesame seeds. 1 small box of crackers. 1 whole sopressade. 1 container of buffalo mozzarella. 1 pint of pickled cherry peppers stuffed with prosciutto and provolone. 6 cannolis. 6 pignoli cookies. Mazzy took Dani home. He grabbed the bag of food and walked her to the door. He asked, Dani, can I see you tomorrow?
What, are you kidding me?
She wrapped her arms around his neck. He gave her the bag. Here, take this. I can't have it in the car. Your mother must be hungry. Later, Mazzy pulled off a boulevard in New Jersey into a parking lot of a shiny silver diner. He saw a group of guys standing around a new Buick. He parked far enough away so no one could get a good look at his car. As he walked over, a young man was standing in the way, sipping a bottle of Coke through a straw. Excuse me, little kid, he said as he moved the kid aside by the shoulders. The conversation was mostly a loudmouth guy bragging over an open hood.
Hey, she's got plenty of muscle.
He said to anyone within earshot. Mazzy stepped up and looked over the fender, a 1986 Buick Grand National turbocharged V6 engine with intercooler and a 4-speed with overdrive. He whistled. Sure looks special, mister. Like it cost some money,
More than you got.
said the guy. Gee, Ace, I don't mean any offense. I'm just not used to seeing something so sanitary. Is she fast?
Gee, I'll have to think about that one.
The guy said as he rolled his eyes. Mazzy looked down at his tipped-up boot. The guy laughed.
I bet you think you can blow me out of the water.
What I think is, you talk a lot. For a guy with nothing but a rental car?
Let's make it $100, Jack, and the Grand Nat will do the talking.
That sounds real good and all, but darn, my car's parked all the way over there. The walk ain't worth nothing but 5 yards. The crowd of onlookers gasped and jeered. Some stared back and forth between Mazzy and the guy.
Go ahead.
Said the guy.
Go get your antique.
A few miles out of town, 4 deep channels of displaced asphalt and burnt rubber carved into the highway made for the starting line. They met a young man in a t-shirt with a puffy ball cap perched on his head. Hey, what's up? I'm Israel. I'll be your friend, he said. After the finish, you lose, you go. You win, you stay. It's that simple. Mazzy started the wheelies and snapped the pedal. The uncorked headers barked. It still made him tremble. He buried his foot deep into the floorboard and the spinning slick smoked the pavement. He let go the accelerator and the growling car was covered in a cloud. He put it in reverse with the door open to let the smoke out the cabin. Meanwhile, the other guy waited on the line. Israel ran up to the car. Oh man, he's shitting bricks over there. What a big shot. Not to take sides, but I want you to roll this sucker out. I mean punch it. Someone yelled from the sidelines. Both cars sat on the empty highway in the red glow of the traffic light. The rapping of the engine enveloped Mazzy's head. The light turned green. He feathered the gas to keep traction. But when he hooked, the car jumped forward and the front wheels popped in the air. He eased the pedal to the floor and then shifted. It was tough keeping it pointed straight, but with tubs and Mickey slicks, his car screwed. He didn't even look at the other guy. He shifted into fourth and said goodnight to the 1986 Grand National. Another rube, Mazzy thought. The guy's the fastest in town, doesn't know if 41 wheelies could scoot? When will they ever learn? On the way back to the Bronx, Mazzy passed through a large industrial area, dark and deserted on a Saturday night. He felt like he was driving on the edge of the world. An eerie loneliness was interrupted by the flashing and ringing of a railroad crossing. A freight train moved through. As he waited there, the driver's side door popped open. 2 huge silhouettes pulled Mazzy out of the car. They pushed him into a van, and he slid across the metal floor.
Yeah, punk, get in the van.
One of them barked.
Hold him down, I'm gonna tie this mother up.
The other guy said. Mazzy struggled.
What are you doing?
Keep your mouth shut.
You're lucky we don't beat your face.
They bound him with cord. As grit was being pushed into his cheek, they tightened a blindfold on Mazzy before they hopped into the front seats. Gravel bounced off the bottom of the van as they took off. Mazzy could hear the clanging of the train fade away. As they drove at high speed, he listened to the hum of the engine. It sounded like a slant 6, single-barrel carburetor with a 2-inch exhaust.
You're gonna be alright.
Called back the Hulk in the passenger
Don't
seat.
panic. Everything's fine.
At first, Mazzy figured they were after the money or his car, but it wasn't so. Why were they nabbing him? It was probably best to keep quiet. Either of these giants could snap him like a breadstick. He paid attention to when the van rolled through a left or right turn and kept track of the number of each. He noted when they came to a stop. He heard a chain-link gate open and they drove through. The sound of the environment changed as if everything were far away. He could make out the low moan of a ship out to sea and the lapping of water. The brine in the air was thick. The van doors swung open.
Get him out of the van!
Mazzy was grabbed by his feet and pulled. They untied his legs and pushed him as he stumbled a few yards through a squeaky door. They gripped and tripped him down a long flight of stairs, through an echoing corridor and another set of doors. Then they stopped. Mazzy's hands were untied and the blindfold was lifted. Light shined into his eyes.
The room began to darken and he was able to gaze at what was before him. It was an incredible sight. Upon a platform, a little round man dressed in silken robes sat underneath an embroidered tent, with its front flaps held open by a pair of golden spears. The little round man shifted about, getting comfortable on a multitude of brocade pillows. Behind the round man hung a tapestry. Massimo looked up at it. It depicted a white unicorn prancing inside of a round white corral. Mazzy said to himself, "Holy crap, I hate New Jersey."
Isn't it lovely?
Said the little round man.
I see you have an appreciation for beauty. The unicorn in captivity? A fine eye you have. Life lived without an appreciation of fine things is unforgivable. Time wasted. It's a miserable sin.
The little round man invited Mazzy to sit in front of the platform. Low was the chair, and covered in red velvet. The two hulking kidnappers came out from the shadows. One brought the little round man a tall hookah, and the other kidnapper put another near Mazzy. The little round man began puffing, sending smoke above his head. He brightened with a smile, showing a mouth full of gold. He twiddled his fingers, jeweled rings on each.
Not in the mood to smoke. Quel dommage,
said the little round man.
You'll have to forgive my friends. They can be a bit rough around the edges. A bit rough indeed. But they get the job done, I'll say that much for them. Twins, a curious thing. I have to be careful because they can get jealous when I give one all the attention and none to the other. But correct you are, Massimiliano. Enough with the frivolities. I can see you want to get down to the point, and to the point we shall get. I like a man who gets straight down to business. So enough with the chatter. We have much to attend to. Let me put any doubt out of your mind, lest your preoccupation lead to perniciousness. Mazzy, a troubled mind tends to worry, and exigent matters require the tending here. There's nothing to worry about, I say, for either of us.
What's this about? What do you want from me? Mazzy said. The little round man stared at Mazzy while puffing the hookah.
You will no doubt detect a fine Italian hand at play here. Ah, yes, it's a marvelous mystery, but I entreat you, take what I say with the weightiest of considerations. Many people would gladly give their left eye for the intelligence you're about to receive, but worry not. The asking price isn't so dear. The parties that had you collected are powerful people. Do not concern yourself with how and why you've been chosen. Just know there's good reason for it and accept it in good faith. There are others like you, but this unconventional manner of initiation is for you and you alone.
So that's what this is? An initiation? Mazzy asked.
You are to complete an important task, Mazzy. Abundancia plays a part in this as well. Ah, yes, Dani. How my lips tremble to say her name for fear of besmirching a lilting poem. Abundancia Paretta. How God loves an Italian girl. There's more in life planned for the both of you. Great things await. Tremendous things. You will find you're much needed. This is how it begins, Mazzy. For you and for Dani.
One of the twins walked over and handed Mazzy a document box.
Your task is a noble one, and ye shall be nobly rewarded. In this portfolio, you'll find all you need. Practice resolution. Be steadfast. Follow the instructions to the letter, and you'll be very glad you did. Onward, ho! Godspeed. The twins will take you back to your car.
Mazzy was again blindfolded and put back in the van. He was dropped off by the train tracks where his car was sitting. He found his keys inside the portfolio. He started the willies up and drove away.